Today was the day that the final two candidates in the Conservative leadership campaign were supposed to go head-to-head in a debate. Instead, the favourite, Boris Johnson, has chosen not to take part, turning down a debate for the second time. So, why is the man who's tipped to be Britain's next Prime Minister stepping away from live TV debates? And is he right to do so? Joining us to discuss this in more detail, if Boris's advisers are getting it right, is former advisor to David Cameron, Alex Deane, and New York Observer columnist Andre Walker. Hello to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Alex Deane, to you first of all. Are they doing the right thing by protecting him from the scrutiny of live television?
Probably yes, and the reason for that is that the Conservative Party in Parliament has made the mistake of offering our members one Brexiteer and one Remainer. And it's obvious to everyone that the Brexiteer is going to win, and if that's the case, then you should limit the liability of having exposure in debates and just keep your head down, because you're going to win in an environment where the other guy is a sacrificial lamb. The Parliamentary Party didn't do its job. It should have given us two Brexiteers and given the party in the country a real debate. Instead, it's obvious that the Leaver is going to win. So, of course, if you're advising the Leave campaign now, the Leave campaigner now, he keeps his head down.
Andre Walker?
This is a huge opportunity to throw rocks at Boris Johnson by the media, lots of whom are kind of gunning to get him simply because he is a Brexiteer. Look, if you look at the news reports that we've seen around Boris, I can only quote my old boss, Steve Bannon, when he said, "Did you believe they'd give you your country back so easily?" We need, as Brexiteers, to come together and not allow those people who are in the Remainer establishment to attack the Brexiteer Prime Minister. And if the way of doing that is to prevent his exposure to the media, then so be it. Now, I have no criticism of UK nor of Sky News, but we saw in the two debates by Channel 4 and the BBC really what was an embarrassing display and an attempt to attack and undermine a future Conservative government. That's something that would be irresponsible of Conservative members and Conservative leaders to countenance.
Alex, if he's frightened of little old me, how is he going to get on with the other 27?
Well, I think that's, of course, the challenge that Jeremy Hunt and his supporters have been making in increasingly aggressive terms as they're swinging into empty air and Boris isn't engaging. You know, if you're afraid of us, why won't you have proper debates now? If you can't do that, then surely you're going to fail against the EU. But the answer, Kay, I think, is that whilst, no offence, the British media is more obsessed with itself than pretty much any other media in the world, that is not what's on the minds of the electorate that these two men face, certainly not first and foremost. The electorate they faced, 160-odd thousand members of the Conservative Party, will be thinking, A, about how to deliver Brexit, and B, every other policy area. And so C, I'm afraid to break it to you, comes very, very distant in how much the hurt feelings of our media class are by not having the debates that you so dearly want.
Why bother having hustings at all, Andre? I mean, if he's going to have a bunker mentality, just, you know, let's just put our X on the box or wherever we need to do it and just elect him. Or even a coronation. We don't need to get him to face up to any inquisition. Maybe that's not the right word.
Well, we had a coronation with Theresa May, and we realised what an absolute disaster that was. So clearly, there is a desire by the Conservative Party to do something differently. But remember something: most sensible, moderate Conservative Party members recognise that the Conservative Party will always be in the doldrums until we leave the European Union. So it's not about necessarily winning people's votes at this stage. It's about getting us to a position where we've got a Prime Minister who is willing to genuinely stand up for Britain in Brussels, and then get to the 31st, leave the European Union, and then rebuild our case. Because fundamentally, at the moment, the paralysis that you see in the Conservative Party, the failure by people like Ollie Robbins and Theresa May to push forward a genuinely Conservative Brexit agenda, means that we're going to be in the doldrums. But well, if we can now deal with this problem, which I think we are doing, then it's a good thing.
Well, look, you used that phrase twice now, Andre. Far be it from me to disagree with you, but I don't think the Tory party's in the doldrums. I think that unless and until the Tory party gets a Brexit process behind it, it's not just in the doldrums, it's absolutely underwater. We saw what happened in the Peterborough by-election, where the Tory party didn't split the Brexit party's vote. We split the Brexit party's vote rather than the Brexit party splitting ours. We finished way behind them. We saw what happened in the European elections, finishing a dismal 5th in a national election. A party of government finishing finishing 5th. Unless the Tory party delivers Brexit, we, and I say this as a member since 1995, we are finished. So we've got to get it done, and we've got to get it done, given this is the latest deadline we've advertised to the world, by the 31st of October. We all know it should have been done sometime before.
May I just ask you, 25 sitting days, as I've been saying over the last couple of days as part of my research, 25 sitting days from when he takes over as Prime Minister. How is he going to achieve it?
Well, the House has already agreed on every element of the withdrawal agreement, except for the Irish backstop. And that's under the Brady Amendment. We saw that they agreed with every element of the withdrawal agreement, except for the Irish provisions on the border. And, of course, the Europeans agreed with phase 1 of the negotiations, which was how much money they could screw out of us. No wonder they were so united on that. But on phase 2, which is about the individual agreements, we have now reached agreement with our European friends on every aspect of that withdrawal, no matter how bad you might think the withdrawal agreement is, except on the Irish backstop. And if you focus your energies in those 25 days simply and purely on that one point, and frankly you divide out the interests of the Irish who are kicking and screaming against this, against the other members, that's where you make some progress.
It was Theresa May who asked for the backstop to be put in.
Yeah, and the backstop, whilst I think the whole thing is poorly designed, and bear in mind, allegedly nobody wants the backstop to be invoked at all. You want to have a transition process in which you come up with better provisions. But if the backstop does come into existence, it's got to be time limited. Leah Varadkar, the Irish Taoiseach, has been saying, well, if it comes to an end, then it's not really an insurance policy. What kind of insurance policy have you ever had, Kay, that didn't lapse, that you didn't have to renew? Every insurance policy has an end period, and for argument's sake, if that insurance policy with the backstop was 5 or even 10 years long, who could say that that wasn't a suitable provision? After all, who knows where the EU is going to be in 10 or 12 years' time? OK,
Andre, if only I could put these questions to the potential future Prime Minister.
Well, look, I think we've got to be fair. There are going to be 16 hustings. I thought that the one with Ian Dale the other day in Birmingham was pretty robust. The audience weren't so keen to hear about questions about his private life, but nonetheless, Ian pressed forward. Look, this is an internal process within the Conservative Party, and it is the most
Let me just interrupt you there, if I may. And the point is, yes, there are all those hustings, but it's the head-to-head. It's comparing, you know, apples and pears. Do you want this person or do you want that person? You want to hear what they're both saying as part of robust discussion, surely. But Kay, I'm a member of the Conservative Party since 1995, as well as Alex. The truth of the matter is, this is for Conservative Party members to decide who is the leader of the Conservative Party. Now, you know, whether people like it or not, our nominee as Conservative Party leader is going to become the Prime Minister. Now, I know that that's a disappointment to any media outlet, but Kay, I don't blame you, and I don't blame Sky. Did you see Krishnan Guru Murphy's introduction on Channel 4, where he listed the schools and no, sorry, Andre, not buying into that.
It was pathetic.
No, not playing. Alex, don't be rude about my colleague, otherwise I'm not going to let you carry on.
I wasn't about to. I was going to say the level of interest the media has in itself is a bit of a shame in this discussion. But I was going to make a different point, which is that Andre is right that this is an internal Tory process. If others wanted to have an influence in it, just as Corbyn and his friends always say, they could have gone off and joined the Tories.
So whoever wins, and it does look at, well, it's not perhaps a coronation anymore, but it does look as though he's still the front runner. How is the Conservative Party going to unite the country, Andre, in your opinion? Are they going to, is he potentially going to have a deputy Prime Minister who is a Remainer, so at least both sides are covered in Downing Street?
Well, I think when you look at somebody like Boris Johnson and the way that he was able to unite various groups within the whole of London, not just on the right, not just Conservatives, but right across the board, I think you need a level of charisma to do that. You see it with some great Conservative leaders like Ronald Reagan and, dare I say, even Margaret Thatcher, where the charisma in of itself kind of draws people together. Ultimately, the only way that we're going to deal with the problems that we've got in this country over division is to make good on the referendum commitment and leave the EU. Then we can start getting on with absolutely everything else. OK, 15 seconds, Alex, that's all. Go.
I'm willing to answer your question, which was about a Remainer. I predict we'll see a very senior role in government for one Jeremy Hunt. I think that's the easiest way to demonstrate the Tory party has come together after the leadership election.
Great to talk to both of you guys. Don't be offended if I say I'm sorry that you're not Jeremy and Boris. Thank you.